Welcome everyone to another Tracking Trends Thursday with Kristen Mason Coreas, owner of the Homestead Mason team. Today is Thursday, October 16th. Hopefully everyone who had an extension on their taxes like me got them turned in by now. And actually, I don't know if the IRS is working. I don't know if they're actually going to be processing those now. Hoping for a government shutdown to end here shortly. Our thoughts continue to be with those of you who are directly impacted. There's lots of indirect impacts for sure, but especially those of you who are directly impacted, know that we are thinking of you. And actually our behind the scenes article this week in our weekly newsletter is on that topic. And if you're not getting our newsletter and want to, let us know. We would love to put you on that. So what's happening with interest rates? They came down just a tiny bit, creating a more favorable environment for people looking to buy. They were at 6.3 last week. They're at 6.27 now. And take a look at where we've been in the past year. So that's right there, as low as we have been in the entire past year. So that is good news. And what you'll see as we look at the financial information, there continues to be confidence that the Fed will drop their rate when they meet. Is it next week or 2 weeks? I think it's 2 weeks. At the end of October, they're meeting. When reviewing the notes from the last Fed meeting, it showed that officials agreed that the slowdown in the labor market did outweigh inflation concerns, because those are the concerns that they're often trying to balance. When they're competing, it's hard to know what to do. But the notes said this. So as if the labor market continues to slow down, which is, again, not necessarily good news, but that then does translate into perhaps good news with them reducing their interest rate and potentially a subsequent reduction in mortgage interest rates that may or may not follow. Reminder to you, that's not a direct connection, but certainly related. The government shutdown, as we talked about, does continue, and therefore some data and reports are not being generated. And so that makes it a little bit harder for us who like to track trends to see the trends. So hopefully, again, lots of reasons why we hope the government shutdown will end soon. Interesting enough, purchase applications did fall only 1%. When interest rates come down, we would expect purchase mortgage applications, all applications, and we would expect to go up. They are 14% higher than the same week last year. So that may be a result of increased buyers due perhaps to increased inventory. We'll take a closer look at what's going on there here shortly. And another interesting point, ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, increased slightly in popularity. So usually you see that when interest rates are higher. So the fact that interest rates have come down and we're seeing an increase in adjustable rate mortgages, I don't know, interesting. I actually did have a conversation with someone, I think last week, about ARMs. I guess maybe it's because people are finally, right, like totally accepting where we are. The interest rates are higher than where we'd like them to be, which does impact housing affordability. And so therefore an ARM can help with making that initial mortgage payment more affordable for people. So some people don't like the risk. I'm not much of a risk taker myself, but there's a couple of times and reasons why it might make sense for you. So again, a lot of these decisions ultimately are case by case and personal to your situation, and working with trusted advisors to help you make those decisions is what's going to be most important. For the Mid-Atlantic region, new listings remained firm over last year. In the last 2 weeks, new listings have been the highest they've been in the last 3 years. So if we're not eating up those listings, then that increases our active inventory. So showings are increasing because there's more listings to view. So that makes some sense. For a long time, as a reminder, right? More listings are not necessarily a bad thing. And you see it here at the bottom. It's healthier. We kind of had an unhealthy market for a long time with not enough inventory. So there's more options for buyers. That's great. For the third week in a row, showings are greater than they were because there's more to look at. And so active supply is on the rise. All submarkets across the entire Mid-Atlantic region have a much healthier supply than they did last year, a 24.5% increase from the year before. For the larger DC metro area, these stats look a little bit different than what we just saw. So showings are actually down year over year and week over week, but not by a much, 3 to 4%. And purchase contracts are also down year over year and week over week. And this may probably be related to, actually, I was going to say it might be related to it being a holiday weekend, but this data only goes until October 12th, which did not capture the holiday. So forget what I just said there. Yeah, the holiday was Monday the 13th. So let's just keep looking at the data. I mean, so I would expect next week this data to maybe be less than it was the week before. We'll see how that plays out. Time to contract increased by 7 days year over year and 2 days week over week. New listings up just a touch year over year, but down week over week. So again, when I first looked at this, I thought it was, oh yeah, it was a holiday weekend. That's why everything is down. But then I forgot that this data only goes up till Sunday. So interesting to see that showings are down and listings are down week over week in our area. We'll see if that again plays out again next week. Active inventory is up. That tracks with what's happening in the larger area by 37% compared to a year ago and basically flat from last week. Canceled listings, I don't normally look at that, but again, if this is a big number, 46.3%, I may start looking at it because I would say in our area, and I guess this is another reason why things might be down. Our area does tend to have a strong market, and sellers have high expectations in our market. And so maybe there's less sellers listing because they're not getting what they're hoping to get. That may be a thing. And sellers might be canceling at higher numbers because they're not getting what they want, and maybe they don't have to. And also, I will say canceled listings, one of the reasons I don't look at this is because it's not a true depiction of what's going on. Some listing agents will take a home off the market and relist it right away. So if it was canceled, we don't know if it was really, really canceled or if it was just kind of a marketing ploy to take it off and put it back on. That's why I don't normally look at that number. All right, so our hyperlocal data, we run this for you week over week, and you can see that our new listings and new under contracts are slightly less than what they were the week before, slightly less than the average. That is what I would normally see this time of year. And so again, this shows us that we're down from the week before in terms of inventory and both contracts. What is pretty consistent across the board here is that generally when supply is up or down, contracts generally track with it. So that is, I guess, relatively good that we're not seeing disparities there. And so year over year, our supply is the red bar. So we are up year over year. That tracks with what we were seeing in the larger market, but contracts are actually down a touch year over year. Now that demand to supply ratio I've started looking at with you recently, because again, this helps you understand really what's happening on the ground. Last year, the demand to supply ratio was 95.9%, 96% of the listings that went on the market were eaten up by contracts, essentially. So there wasn't much left over. There's not a lot to choose from. This year, only 72.4% demand to supply ratio. So that gives buyers more breathing room, more options on the ground of real estate. That's what that number tells you. And days on market actually did increase. I think it went up to 37. And as you can see, the interest rate is, basically flat, just coming down a little bit. That is your Tracking Trends Thursday for today, October 16th. Thanks for watching. And as always, if you want to talk about what is happening in the market and how that impacts you and your personal decisions, please reach out. Happy to have these conversations with you all. 571-210-1866 is my phone number. You can call me or text me. And down below, there'll be a link you can find if you want to just go ahead and schedule yourself on my calendar. Thanks again, and have a great weekend.